Propaganda exposed. Global clicks, local chaos. From Red Fort blast to Bihar ballot battle. Narrative ninjas behind screens unmasked. Who is driving the digital storm? That is a big India Today exclusive.
This is News Track and I'm Maria Shakil. Geopolitics is ultimately a game of power. And while many nations avoid physical battlefields, they are now fighting on a different one. This is the digital battlefield. A new kind of weapon is trending. One that doesn't use missiles, but narratives. And a new transparency feature on X has opened a Pandora's box. Rolled out over the weekend, the About This Account feature reveals a user's actual country and region based on internet activity and not what they claim in their bio. It also shows how often a username has been changed, a key indicator of suspicious behavior. The world is seeing what many suspected for years, that coordinated political campaigns are being run by accounts pretending to be local citizens. In the United States, foreign accounts posing as Americans were exposed while promoting the MAGA campaign. In India, the impact is even more significant. In fact, India Today's Osint team has found thousands of accounts posing as Indian users while operating from Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and West Asia. They were deeply involved in conversations on politically sensitive issues such as the farmers' protests, the NRC-CAA protests, and also during the recently concluded Bihar elections. Let me give you one example. Chatur Vediswat, this account has a profile photo of an Indian woman. There is a Jai Hind in the bio, posts Indian national issues, but X shows it is based in Pakistan. Our Osint team has found that there were thousands of posts criticizing the center, and this account is a clear example of how narratives are being weaponized. So what does this mean? These narratives, in fact, these operators are shaping opinions, manipulating trends, and infiltrating online communities. And this isn't the first time that social media or social media influencer has been used to peddle propaganda. We have seen an influencer being groomed to push pro-Pakistan narratives. Jyoti Malhotra, this lady, a travel vlogger, showcased curated propaganda. This brings me to the question that we are asking on the show tonight, that for a digital battlefield where opinions can be shaped across borders without us even realizing it. So what really is going to happen in days and months to come? Are there enough laws, and how should the legal perspective be shaped? Joining me on the show tonight, N.S. Napinai is an advocate of the Supreme Court and founder of Cyber Saathi. We have Veena Sikri, former Indian diplomat. Kanish Gaur is a technology expert. And we also have senior editor of the Osint team, Ankit Kumar. Ankit, I'm going to begin with you as someone, and also Dr. Pawan Duggal, advocate of the Supreme Court, joins us as well. Ankit, beginning with you, the challenge certainly is of realizing the scale at which these, propaganda IDs are operating. So when we take this example of Bihar elections, can you give us a sense of how many such accounts, fake accounts, were operating, and they had an opinion on Bihar elections, and whose side were they peddling for?
So, Maria, there are three aspects to this entire thing. First is the domestic political issue. As you rightly said, the Bihar election is one example. The reason why our team had the ability to go through all the disinformation campaign is because we already have been tracking a lot of coordinated campaigns. When we say coordinated campaigns, what we mean is that batch accounts posting similar post or sometimes 100% copy paste jobs and trying to propagate one narrative. So I will give you one example of foreign accounts interfering in India's domestic political scene. Last year there was a violence in Sambal. For those who don't know, Sambal is in Uttar Pradesh. There was a communal tension. We have evidence to show that uh, Pakistan-based accounts, which, if you see their bio, their identity, they pretend to be India-based, Uttar Pradesh-based citizens. They have made very sensitive, very aggressive comments, which had the ability to cause communal tension. So we have those kind of accounts. In Bihar election, Marias, there are accounts which are based in Pakistan but have kind of criticized the policies of the central government. I will give you two other aspects. One is geopolitical. Uh, 6 months before Sheikh Hasina was toppled, her government was toppled out of power in Bangladesh. Our team did a story. We had established that there was a massive anti-India campaign going on, which was linked to thousands of accounts based in UK. Before that, we had already seen one such campaign in Maldives, which was the India Out campaign, which an EU body established that had footprints of foreign influence operations.
Okay.
And then there is security angle. Back in 2020, during India-China conflict, there was this famous account of Kathy Rolanova, a Russia-based security expert, and everything she posted was kind of taken at face value because the profile belonged to a Russia-based military blogger. So you have security angle, you have domestic political angle, and as you rightly said, there is geopolitical angle.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Dugal, many would say that X has used this feature that will detect and reveal the origin, the geographical origins of user accounts. But if they are, influencing narratives at this scale, and there is a coordinated campaign, hate campaigns also, then what can countries such as ours do? What legal protections do we have?
Currently, we do not have adequate protections under applicable Indian law. The Information Technology Act 2000 is completely silent on fake news. Similarly, the Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita also does not have adequate provisions, though we can try to bring fake news publication under the broad ambit of electronic forgery for purposes of cheating or harming reputation of others under the BNS. However, that's not going to be sufficient. Please remember, we are now the largest democracy in the world. We are now the most populous nation in the world. And we are also now the most hungry AI population in the world. More and more population in India is quickly adapting to AI than any other country. Therefore, trying to peddle, trying to create, disseminate, forward, or distribute a particular narrative becomes very easy in the Indian context. The absence of a dedicated law on fake news or fake information further complicates the entire scenario. India needs to learn from countries like Thailand, from Singapore, from France, and come up with dedicated legal provisions, number one. Number two, India is very, very soft on intermediaries and service providers. Gone are the days where we must treat the intermediaries with a hallowed kind of an approach around them. You have to make intermediaries and service providers responsible. They cannot be allowed to be mute spectators. Section 79 2C says that these intermediaries must exercise due diligence while they discharge their obligations under the law.
Okay.
However, the government has still not specified the minimum requirements for due diligence, specifically in the context of publication, distribution, or dissemination of fake information. Barring one particular line under the IT Rules 2021, we have nothing much to do. And I think the intermediaries need to be made responsible for the fake news that gets generated on their platform, and they must be asked to remove the fake news within 2 hours. The current time limit of 15 days is a time limit that got potentially got a reference to the dinosaur age. Today, fake news or the fake narrative changes people's perspectives instantaneously. So hence, that content needs to be removed at an earliest possible, but not later than 2 hours.
Yes.
Anything beyond 2 hours will cause an impact upon the sovereignty, security, or integrity of India. So a lot of work needs to be done.
Yes, absolutely. And the fact is that X has done it. other social media platforms should also come in. So, Ambassador Sikri, many would say that foreign-based accounts trying to influence conversations in India on social media platforms may not be new. We were aware of it, particularly during the farmers' protests, that there were a lot of Khalistani accounts trying to influence the narrative here in India. In terms of geopolitical implications, can India take it up with any foreign country that these accounts are based in your country, the action must be initiated there?
Well,
Can that
actually,
be
of
done?
course, we can take it up if we are quite sure that this is the case. So I think while the talk, as you're quite rightly saying, the suspicion that this was happening, that foreign hands were influencing, was always there. It was always being discussed also among the agencies, among the media, and so on. But there was never any proof. I do think that this new feature on X by Elon Musk and his group is very valuable. It will prevent misinformation. It will allow early detection, because actually the moment we were discussing, as we always did, that this is caused by fake news from abroad, everybody would say, oh, you're just talking of the foreign hand, you're just blaming it on the foreign hand. But now with this new feature, which I hope stays on and is not altered or changed, and X has done an excellent initiative. Twitter, the new X, has done an excellent initiative in taking this about the account, saying when it was started, which country, how many times you changed your name, all a lot of valuable information. And if such valuable information is continued to be provided on this channel, it will really help Indian agencies and the individuals in tracking down these accounts. I think I agree fully that in building up a fake narrative, or when somebody is trying to build up a fake narrative, time is of the essence. So if we want to detect it quickly, such things will help a lot. But we also need the internal laws and regulations which will allow such cases to be tried quickly. So in this case, we have to look into issues like the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita and other aspects of tracking down fake news, of misinformation, of maligning somebody, of trying to put pressure through wrong means, political pressure or non-political pressure. All these are very important realities of today, but perhaps they are not reflected adequately in our Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, because these things are changing. They have to be updated very often. But I'm sure the government is looking into that, and these changes will be made. But all in all, this is a very, very valuable addition, and I hope it stays on.
Yes, but as you pointed out rightly, Ambassador Sikri, that it will not prevent fake news. At best, it will lead to an early detection. So come in on this, Kanishk. This feature detects and reveals the geographical origin of user accounts. But when it is about the larger technological strengths and limitations of this feature, especially regarding VPN and proxy users, what does it do?
See, we are living in the age of information warfare, and narratives are being set globally. You have organized criminal groups, organizations. We've heard of Cambridge Analytica, which did election interference. Now it is interference which is not done during elections only. It is propaganda narrative warfare, which is done throughout the year. So today you have cyber criminals which use proxy VPNs to hide their identity. Mind you, if you see a X account which appears to be coming from outside India, it's not necessarily, it might be sitting outside India, it could be sitting right within India, and it would be set by an organized cyber criminal group. And we have seen this happening. I investigated a case of Nupur Sharma, where I looked at hate propaganda which was targeted on Nupur Sharma, and a lot of these accounts were originating from Pakistan. When we did deep analysis, and every account was pointing towards India. But when we did deep analysis, we did further investigation, we were able to point out that this was a DG ISPR propaganda which was being put to create physical unrest in India. So right now what we are seeing is information warfare, narrative warfare, and it is impacting India in a big way. It can impact physical conflicts on ground as well.
So then, Dr. Duggal, what legal steps could be taken to hold foreign actors accountable for meddling in Indian political conversations online?
First and foremost, we will need to realize that Indian sovereignty is supreme and no foreign power has got any kind of a right to interfere in the internal affairs of India. Indian sovereignty needs to be expanded to include cyber sovereignty. I recently coined a new concept known as artificial intelligence sovereignty, which includes the right of the sovereign nation to go ahead and have its sovereignty over all AI algorithms which are available in its territorial boundaries, independent of whether they are physically located in the country or not. Apart from the sovereignty of the country to develop its own sovereign large language models, number one. Number two, I think we need to come up with, as a low-hanging fruit, immediate due diligence parameters under Section 87 of the Information Technology Act 2000, where the central government, without going to Parliament, comes up with these rules and regulations specifically stipulating the specific due diligence parameters that must be mandatorily adopted by intermediaries in the matters pertaining to fake narratives or fake news. And if they fail to do so, then they are automatically stripped of their statutory exemption from legal liability. Number three, we will have to have a dedicated law on fake news because that's going to be the need of the hour. And number four, it's intrinsically also connected with the need of India to have a dedicated new national legislation on artificial intelligence. Let's remember that a big chunk of this for this so-called fake narrative is getting generated using artificial intelligence. Hence, if we are not going to regulate the misuse of AI for disseminating fake news or for criminal purposes, we are actually going to miss the bus. But finally, it will ultimately also be responsible to create adequate public awareness campaigns by the government, by AI stakeholders, by the cyber stakeholders to the normal lay digital user. Please do not believe what you see. Please learn to be stingy in sharing your information. Please learn to be suspicious of any and every information that you see till such time you've independently verified the authenticity or veracity of the same.
Okay.
We all have to work together. The law is only having one component. We need to enforce existing provisions of law with great vigor, but ultimately we need to have new legal frameworks and we'll have to imbibe a service of cyber resilience by sensitizing users not to rely upon such content. And in the context of elections, the Election Commission of India has a humongous role to play to ensure that this kind of fake information or fake news, whether done through deep fakes or otherwise, does not prejudicially impact the holding of free, fair, and independent elections in the Indian context.
Okay, certainly. Kanishk, 30 seconds to you, and then I'll give the last word to the senior editor of Osint, Ankit. Kanishk, we are looking at a challenge of a different nature. And the fact is that increasingly the entire conversation and the warfare is being played online. It is about public trust or activism which is happening online. Then uncovering of these foreign origin accounts, how does it really help a nation? It will be essentially communicating to the public, be aware. Besides the awareness campaign, what else can it do?
It can create psychological warfare where people could really get hooked on to fake news, misinformation, which is propagated through a network of botnets, through a network of deepfakes. So people can get in a state of panic and it can influence their mindset, who they like, who they don't like. For example, the recent bomb blast which happened, uh, the way it was broadcasted per se, it was seen as there is a new element of warfare which is being planned against India. And there is a specific community which was being suffered massively. And doctors of specific community were being targeted while they were trying to talk about their freedom of expression or their fundamental rights. But actually, if you look at the threat actors who were doing all of this, were information warfare specialists sitting right across the border,
Okay.
trying to create a narrative on Twitter, X, and also
Right.
on Facebook.
Okay,
So
Ankit.
what you need to do is you
Okay,
need
let
to
me
go
bring in
back.
Ankit quickly now. I have just
Yeah.
30 seconds left on the show. Ankit, this is about X, but conversations are being generated also on Instagram, also on Facebook. What about these platforms?
X is important, Maria, because X might not have the largest footprints among
Yes,
the
because the
Indian
nature of
audience, but
conversation is shifting. It has now moved to Instagram, on YouTube. That's where the new warfare is. That's where the audience is being fought for.
But X, Maria, is still the go-to platform for people like us, the journalists, the policymakers, the government officials. So if you see the ecosystem of information in the social media universe, in most cases, it starts from X, then travels through platforms like Instagram through multimedia, and then through videos and podcasts. Origin in most cases is usually X. That is why X generally becomes the hub of these information campaign. One suggestion that I would like to give, maybe it is practical. Before every election, there is model code of conduct. Everybody is kind of supposed to follow. Even media, the newspapers, we are supposed to follow the guidelines. But why can't the Election Commission of India add a line issuing an order, guideline for the big tech involved in India? Why can't the social media, the big social media platforms, come under model code of conduct, 40
That
days, 50
certainly is
days
a thought.
before
That certainly
elections?
is a thought, Ankit.
Because big tech,
Ankit,
because big
Ms.
tech.
Napin, Dr. Duggal, Kanish Gaur and Ambassador Sikri, really appreciate your time. Of course, there'll be several other aspects and several stories which will be brought out by the Osint team of India Today. That's all from me. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching.